Alright guys, so first day of Creatober, and looking over my prompts list, I think I'm going to choose 4. So I chose oak, lunar, spell, and cat. So essentially what I'm thinking for this piece is kind of like a cat that wanted to play with the moon. So he's going to use kind of a spell to make his yarn ball kind of sentient and go up and kind of bring the moon down to him, along with unraveling and kind of getting lost and tangled in itself and the tree that's behind him. Alright, so to start out, what I'm going to do is basically take my ruler and try to find the center of my paper. So I'm dealing with a 7 by 7 inch square, so I'm going to go through and actually make it into, or mark it rather, at that's 3.5 inches. So I'm going to do that on all 4 sides and then go into the center and just create the lines across and up and down so that I know exactly where center is. After I've got my center marked, what I'm going to do is go in and actually take the nifty little compass thing. And so this is kind of like a round compass, and the center actually will rotate in on itself. So if you line it up where it says center with those 2 little arrows and then a cross on those 2 bars, you can use it to kind of make a small circle by putting your pencil in one of the dots around it. Or you can do kind of what I did here and just kind of trace around the outside edge. That way, because that's about what size I wanted my finished piece to be. From here, what I'm going to do is, this is an item called Frisket. So essentially, well, what it is it is a frisket or masking fluid. I haven't used this one in particular, so I'm kind of experimenting with it. But what I want to do is kind of shake it up, and this one is actually like a really odd orange color. So what I'm going to do is, once I've got it shaken up, I'm going to take a brush and kind of take it and go around all the edges right against the pencil line of that circle, so that I'm only going to have the flat wash inside of the circle, so that when I'm done and this dries, I can actually go in and kind of take an eraser and erase that frisket and kind of pull it up. So hopefully this works. Alright, so once I've got the frisket down, essentially what you want to do is, to begin with a flat wash, is you want to take your, like a large brush, flat brushes work really well for this. What you want to do is get some water and wet your whole piece of paper, so the whole area that you want to do. This will allow you to have an even color, and you can kind of spread the color around until it gets like that flat consistency that you really want with this. So I'm essentially going to choose this orange color and go in and start at the top and just kind of get a little bit of water, put it directly in the watercolor pan, and then start at the top and kind of get that orange color that I want. And then simply keep doing that process till I've got the whole circle filled up. And then go in and kind of make sure everything's even. There's not really any darker spots. Where this is already wet, this will be really easy to do. So from here, now what I'm going to do is start kind of sketching out my tree. And so I'll kind of focus on all the branches. I'm not going to add a whole lot of detail because I'll go through and kind of flesh it out, kind of by experimenting with how I want to do the actual leaves. And so I'm going to end up doing, when I'm starting to lay down the watercolor, I'm going to kind of do a gradiated wash in the black area on the ground. So essentially I'm going to let the more water kind of into the paint so that it kind of mutes it down, and then go back in with stronger and kind of play with layering. You should be able to see that a little bit here. From there, I'm gonna just start kind of adding in the details to the tree with the trunk and everything, and then kind of branch out into the branches, and I'm just gonna kind of stamp the brush almost to get the kind of leafy texture effect. From here, lastly, with the watercolor, I'm gonna go through and kind of take my brush and get some color on it, and then kind of more or less scratch the brush so that it kind of lifts the paint off to create like the spattering effect, to kind of get like the stars and stuff. So after all this, I'm gonna let that dry for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna go back in with a pencil and kind of add the details so that the ribbon kind of looks like it's well, the yarn looks like it's kind of got like a 3D effect to it and has some bends and twists in it. So lastly, I go in and take an eraser, erase some of the pencil marks. As long as I do it lightly, it won't actually lift up any of the watercolor. And then I'm going to go around the edge and use the eraser to kind of remove the frisket. This did work out pretty well. I did have to make sure to go in really hard in a couple of places to make sure it all came up where the watercolor was. But all in all, I think it worked out pretty well. It's mostly a complete circle. There are a couple like dents and kind of like edges in it, but I think it turned out pretty well. So lastly here, I'm just gonna kind of pick it up, show it off, and let you see kind of like the metallic-iness to it. Other than that, I'm gonna call this one done and kind of go hang it on the wall. So as always, stay safe, be kind, and be creative, guys. See ya.